Sit down.
All right, get out, man. Come on, man.
Sit
Me, man.
Stay down.
No, man. Get me here, man.
This case is one of the most disturbing I've come across. Not just because of the crime, but because of who committed it, a stepfather. Someone who was supposed to protect ended up doing the unthinkable.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are present in the state of Ohio versus Dennis Welk in case number 25-CR-206. The defendant is in court represented by counsel. We were last here on May 14th where the defendant pled guilty to count 5 and count 6, both being sexual battery felonies of the 3rd degree. At that time, the court referred the defendant for a pre-sentence report and victim impact statement. Those reports have been completed and the state is prepared to proceed with sentencing.
Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. I'm going to be brief. This was a heinous crime, Judge. This was horrible in a lot of ways, but most importantly, because this was a minor child who almost assuredly didn't fully understand what was going on with somebody whom was entrusted to love her and to protect her. However, Your Honor, this is not indicative of who Mr. Welk is as a person. Yes, he has a record. Yes, he has been to prison, but it's mainly in the past been for drug offenses, I believe some theft offenses, nothing of this magnitude. On this day, and this is not an excuse, Judge, for his behavior, but on this day, Mr. Welk was drinking a lot, was highly intoxicated, and took advantage of his stepdaughter. Since the day I met him, he is in disbelief that he did this. He has expressed to me his remorse and his sadness and how he hurt her, how he hurt his wife, how he hurt the rest of his family. He knows, Your Honor, that he's going to be spending a lot of time in jail coming up. I know there's discretion with the plea with how much time that equates to. This court has a lot of discretion with that. Earlier in chambers, the state and I presented to the court a joint recommendation for 8 years. I'm going to respectfully ask the court to consider imposing that sentence because I believe Mr. Welk is remorseful. I believe that this is not who he is as a person, and I'm hoping when his time is up and he gets out, which by the way, he's going to be reporting as a sex offender for the rest of his life, so he's going to be under a microscope, he's going to be monitored for the rest of his life, but I'm hoping that he'll be able to piece things together, make amends with at least part of his family. I don't know if he can ever make full amends with everybody or not. And you're going to hear from him in just a minute, Your Honor. But again, I don't think this is who he is as a person. And I'm going to respectfully ask the court to consider adopting the joint recommendation. Thank you, Your Honor.
Every time I hear a defense like this, I struggle. Yes, people make mistakes. But this wasn't a bad decision. It was a violation of a child's trust in the worst possible way. Alcohol doesn't create predators, it reveals them.
All right, before I hear from Mr. Welk, I'm going to read the explanation of duties to register as a sex offender and ask for him to sign it, acknowledging that he was informed of these terms. This is Lake County case number 25-CR-206, 2 counts under 2907.03, subsection A5. Dennis V. Welk, Jr., 35461 Lakeshore Boulevard in Eastlake. You've been convicted of or pleaded guilty to a sexually oriented offense and or child victim offense as defined in 2950.01, and you are a Tier 3 sex offender / child victim offender registrant. You are required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a residency within 3 days of coming into that county, or if temporarily domiciled for more than 3 days. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of education immediately upon coming into that county. If you establish a place of education in another state but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with the sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state immediately upon coming into that state. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of employment if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in a calendar year. If you establish a place of employment in another state but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with that sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in a calendar year. Employment includes volunteer services. You are required to provide to the sheriff temporary lodging information, including address and length of stay if your absence will be for 7 days or more. After the date of initial registration, you are required to periodically verify your residence address, place of employment, and/or place of education in person at the county sheriff's office no earlier than 10 days prior to your verification date. If you change residence, address, place of employment, and/or place of education, you shall provide written notice of that change to the sheriff with whom you have most recently registered and to the sheriff in the county in which you intend to reside, or establish a place of employment and/or place of education at least 20 days prior to any change and no later than 3 days after change of employment. If the residence address change is not to a fixed address, you shall include a detailed description of the place or places you intend to stay, and no later than the end of the first business day immediately following the day you obtain a fixed address, you must register with the sheriff that fixed address. You are further advised, in accordance with federal law, you must report any international travel to your registering authority no less than 21 days prior to travel. Failure to do so may subject you to a criminal prosecution. You shall provide written notice within 3 days of any change in vehicle information, email addresses, internet identifiers, or telephone numbers registered to or used by you to the sheriff with whom you have most recently registered. You are required to comply with all the above described requirements for your lifetime with in-person verification every 90 days. Since your expected residence address as stated above is located in Lake County, you shall register in person no later than 3 days after release with the county sheriff's office at 104 East Erie Street, Painesville. Failure to register, failure to verify residence at the specified times, or failure to provide notice of change in residence address or other required information as described above will result.
That part gave me chills. He wasn't just a predator, he kept trying to manipulate her even from jail. Calling her, blaming her, pushing guilt. That's not remorse, that's control. And the fact his own kids witnessed parts of it, unforgivable.
All right, Mr. Welk, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence?
First and foremost, I'd like to apologize to the courts for appearing before them today. I'd like to apologize to the victim in this case. I'm not going to use alcohol or drugs as an excuse for anything. However, alcohol was a main factor in this case. But I take full responsibility for my actions because I chose to make the irresponsible decision, consuming too much alcohol than I could handle, causing poor, regretful choices leading to my incarceration. I've read the police reports and feel ashamed, embarrassed, and hurt because that's not the person I am. And I wouldn't be standing here today if I would have just been more responsible. I have 4 younger children that I've let down because of being locked away from them, missing out on watching them grow. Having to deal with that is a heartache alone. The only thing I can do now is work on myself while incarcerated, take advantage of all programs they offer, and become a better man and a better father, and not give up doing so. I have to make this my last time in jail, and I plan to. I'm sincerely remorseful to my victim in this case, letting her down when I was supposed to be a father figure in her life. I beat myself up over this every day. Over this, wishing I could take it all back. I just hope she can grow up in life and leave this in the past, and that it doesn't affect her future. Again, I'm sorry to everyone I caused pain to in this case.
The list of rules he now has to follow for life is overwhelming, but it should be. Tier 3 means he's considered the highest risk. That says a lot about what this court thinks of his actions.
Ms. Alessi?
Thank you, Your Honor. One thing that the defendant said today in court, and even in his pre-sentence report, that stood out to me is that he was supposed to be a loving and caring father. And I couldn't agree more with that. He should have been someone that the victim could trust and rely on for protection and guidance. And instead, he used his role as a parental figure to manipulate her, exploit her, and violate her. When this happened, the victim was just 13 years old, 13 years and 8 months to be exact. And as much as the defendant wants to talk about the other children in his life, when the defendant committed this offense, it was done in his home, in her home, with his other children present. Not only that, his 4-year-old Sarah and the 7-year-old Ben actually observed the defendant engaging in the kissing and the touching of the victim's erogenous zones. Later, when the defendant went into the victim's bedroom to engage in the sexual conduct, a 1-year-old was sleeping in the pack and play next to her, and there was a 3-year-old in the room who was awake on her phone, according to the victim. And while there is a jointly recommended sentence here, the state believes it's essential to highlight not only what the defendant did pre-indictment, but also what he did after his arrest in this case. While incarcerated, he continued to communicate with the victim while in the Lake County Jail. He attempted to guilt and manipulate her by blaming her for her own suicide attempt at the East Lake Jail. He pressured her to express her feelings to law enforcement about him, or her desire for him to only receive a short sentence. He spoke of wanting to attend counseling together. He emphasized they were a team and told her he loved her, despite being her abuser, despite doing what he did here. And during several of these recorded calls, you can hear the victim crying, further illustrating just the ongoing emotional harm caused by the defendant and his conduct. This behavior demonstrates his continued disregard for the well-being of the victim, his family, and his ongoing efforts to control her and manipulate her. The defendant today in court said he's remorseful, but in the pre-sentence report, he didn't believe he did anything wrong, and he wants to take this to trial. So I'm not sure what this court can believe. He has a lengthy criminal history, including 4 prior prison numbers and 5 felony cases. And all of this, I think, supports the need for a significant term of incarceration, and respectfully ask this court to impose a jointly agreed sentence of 8 years. Thank you.
He talks about shame, regret, his kids, his pain. But where was that empathy when he crossed every imaginable line? This apology feels like it's more for himself than for the girl he hurt.
Thank you. Why did you call her after you were in jail?
Because I was told by the detective I was allowed to.
Okay.
I didn't call her, I called my wife and she answered the phone.
All right. And what contact did you have with her about retracting her statement or modifying her statement?
It wasn't retracting, we talked about counseling, going to counseling and stuff, because that was something that they was talking about making them do. And something she said she didn't want to do.
Well, trying to, whether directly contacting her or contacting her through your wife, was wholly inappropriate. And it was further evidence of you trying to take advantage of her at that young age, like you did when this happened.
Now she had asked the detective if she could have contact with me when this case was all started. And then when I went to my preliminary hearing on February 11th, I asked the detective and he told me the same thing.
All right. Well, you're experienced enough in the system to have the wisdom that you shouldn't have been contacting her. Okay. In talking to her, having about anything having to do with this case. So you've in your statement, you say you apologize to her, but then in the pre-sentence report, you talk about how you don't believe you did everything you're accused of doing and wanted to take this to trial. What's that all about?
I don't remember exactly what I said, Your Honor, but what I was saying was I don't have recollection of what happened the night of, so I wasn't admitting to, I don't know what happened.
So did you or didn't you do this stuff?
Yes.
This is where the truth hits like a train. This man didn't just abuse her. He did it with his other children watching. He called her from jail. Guilt-tripped her, said he loved her. That's not remorse, that's control, and it's chilling.
You've had a lifetime of criminal activity, but none worse than what has occurred here. So I've reviewed the pre-sentence report and a victim impact statement. I've considered what you have said, what counsel has said. And I've also considered that they've made a joint recommendation of 96 months in prison. And so on count, and I've considered all the provisions in 29, 29, 11, 29, 29, 12, 13, and 14. In consideration of all that, on count 5, I'm going to sentence you to a term of 60 months. On count 6, I'm going to sentence you to a term of 60 months that will be consecutive to one another with credit for 143 days. And consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime by you.
The judge gave him the maximum under the plea to 10 years. But honestly, after everything we just heard, it still feels like mercy.
And for appropriate
Sit
punishment.
down.
All right, get out, man. Come on, man.
Sit
What
down.
you mean, man?
Stay down.
No, man. Get me the out of here, man.
Judge.
You want
And-
fuck took my plea back, man. Get me the out of here, man. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, man. Get me out of here, man.
Almost done, Judge.
Get me the out of here.
And they-
No, man. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, man. What the you nigga? Get me the out of here. Man, get me the out of here. Let me get my leg up. Get me out of here, man.
Take him in the chair.
Okay, we're in this chair. We'll teach you the more.
Put me on your visiting list
Alright.
for jail and
All right,
prison.
man. Stop touching me, man. I'm not doing shit, man. I'm not doing shit. I'm not doing shit.
This outburst right here, this is the real him. Not the calm man who just wanted to apologize, not the remorseful father. Just someone who's furious he got caught and can't face what he's done.